my God, let me just get myself together. I'm not trying to knock my dad.
No.
But this is what I remembered. This is what I had to go through, what I had to unlearn. So, oh my God, see, I told you. I'm just like in a very emotional state. Let me just get myself together.
I mean, I think the fact that it's making you emotional, I mean, this is stuff when you were 4, 5, 6, like times that a lot of people think that kids forget about, right?
Yeah.
And all of the whoopings and punishments and all those things, like it's very easy to think like as you get older, you're almost 30 now,
Yeah.
that you forget about it, but it still makes you emotional. Why?
Yeah.
Why is that?
Well, hold on. I'm like making like, my mouth is like quivering. It's just, let me just gather myself real quick. So there's a lot of things that I had to unlearn. So growing up, I grew up to be a people pleaser. I didn't know how to stand up for myself. I was scared to do a lot of things. Like I was afraid to make mistakes. I always needed to be like this perfect little girl. And speaking up was one of the hardest things that I had to learn, because every time, like that's what, like the biggest thing that we had trouble with our relationship together, because every time he would have this simple conversation with me, the slightest change of tone, I would shut down. I turned into this wall, and it was just like really, like even till now, I still struggle with communication, because sometimes literally the slightest tone, like it would just make me shut down, and I would think that he's mad, and that's when I would be like, oh my God, I would back off. And that's like, till now I have to unlearn that, and I'm 28 years old.
I think what I've noticed too is it makes you second guess yourself. It makes you think that you don't know how to make your own decisions. And anytime it comes to a point when I need your input on something and we need to make a decision, by default, you just go to like, I don't know, right? And then you say like, I can't, like when I say, what are you thinking? You're like, I don't know, I can't think of anything. I can't come up with anything. And it's, as a human, I know there's thoughts going on in your head. I know that there's something is happening in there, but for me, what it looks like from the outside, not knowing everything that happened in the past, it looks like you have these thoughts, but you don't think it's right, and you don't think that you can be right in those situations. Is that accurate?
Yeah. It's just like, I'm just so, like just not knowing what to do, and just not, because I'm afraid to make the wrong decision. I'm afraid to make a mistake. That's why a lot of times I just like revert back to like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I don't know how to make a decision. And it just affects me like all the time, like almost every day. And yeah, like I said, I replied to the comment, I'm like, I had to unlearn all of that, and I'm still relearning things, and I'm the reason why I am the woman that I am today. And honestly, he was such a big help, because he was the one that made me realize that I had this issue. He was like, I think I was like 22 years old, and he was like, you have daddy issues.
Yeah,
he said, you have daddy issues.
But up until that point, I didn't know anything about it.
Yeah, he didn't understand. We would always argue, and I would always shut down. Like our arguments are like, it wasn't even an argument, but I turned it into an argument, because I would just shut down and then get mad after, and then would hold on to that anger. And I couldn't even like communicate how I was feeling.
And I think what we figured out like through therapy that we did was that our triggers triggered each other. So like when we would get in an argument, the number one thing that triggers me in an argument, and
not speaking up.
If we're going back and forth in an argument and all of a sudden you shut down, and then I'm asking a question and there's no response, and then all of a sudden it's like I'm just talking to a wall, that triggers me, and that makes me like, what, like, why can't you? But at the same time, when I'm doing that, it just brings you further and further into that place of like, oh, now I really don't want to say anything. And we were going through that for a while, because I just couldn't understand like why you couldn't speak up in that situation. Like, I think I've already talked about it. Like, for me, I don't run from conflict. I want to go towards the conflict and then resolve it so that we can move on.
Yeah.
But you, when the conflict would happen,
I run away from it.
Just like you were saying.
It makes me so uncomfortable to the point that I'm just like, please make it stop. I just don't want to feel what I'm feeling, so I just shut down.
And it sounds like from your childhood, when you say, you're a people pleaser, I would imagine that's because, growing up, you kind of felt like you had to please your dad.
Always. Even till now, I always want to tell them how I'm doing great, all that other stuff, and just never want to tell them what's really going on.